Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. This is your match preview for Manchester United versus Wolves. We are back, baby. And big season for Manchester United, hopefully. Plenty to talk about today. We're going to be talking about midfield. We're going to be talking about defence. I'm going to be giving you my predicted 11. And we're also going to be doing a score prediction as well for the game. Really looking forward to getting back into it, guys. Get your thoughts and comments, score predictions, starting 11s, all into the chat below. Let's get right into it. So, first and foremost, we're going to talk about Manchester United's defence. Now, specifically here, I'm going to be talking about right back because obviously we've seen last season that, Dalot at the start of the season went, on a run of really good form, was really impressive before the World Cup. And on the back end of the World Cup, then the second half of the season, Aaron Wan-Bissaka emerged as, a very competent right back as well. And they've been going head to head. It's great competition to see between both players. And I think I think the fact that both of them are quite different in relation to being a fullback. I think Dalot likes to get forward a lot more than Wan-Bissaka. We know how good Wan-Bissaka is in terms of his one-on-one defending. So I think, that's probably the strongest part of his game. We have seen Wan-Bissaka, on the other hand, improve an awful lot going forward with the ball. Watching him in pre-season, I think his link-up play was quite good. His 1- and 2-touch passing. I think there's still a bit to go in terms of, maybe the understanding between himself and Anthony, if it is going to be him on the right-hand side, or link-up play. We've seen a lot throughout pre-season as well, where when our centre-backs are in possession in our own half, that our full-backs tend to be playing quite narrow and nearly as another central midfielder, with our forward wide men maybe dropping into the halfway line mark, kind of looking for the ball. It just gives us more options, and I think it keeps the opposition on our toes. But, talking about who is going to get the right back spot, me personally, I think it's going to be Wan-Bissaka. I think he had the better pre-season. We seen, of course, last week in the Lens game in Old Trafford, Dalot giving the ball away for Onana as, getting lobbed from the halfway line. So I think it is going to be Wan-Bissaka getting the nod ahead of Diogo Dalot. But I think it will depend. I said this a lot last season as well. I think it will depend on the type of opposition that we are going up against. If we're going up against, an opposition where you're going to be on the back foot more, then you probably play Wan-Bissaka. If you're going all out attack, do you play maybe Dalot? I'm not sure. And of course, that's up to Erik ten Hag. But ten Hag is the type of manager, we've seen it last year, that if a player gets into the team and he plays well, he stays in. So I think whoever gets the nod on Monday night against Wolves, and if they play well, I think potentially they're off to a good start in terms of keeping their place for the start of the season. Now, let's move on and talk about midfield. Now, look, we know midfield is an area that Erik ten Hag was looking to improve this summer. We have seen Mason Mount come in, potentially, hopefully getting another midfielder in the form of Amrabat. We've been heavily linked with him. Potentially some outgoings then as well. Obviously, Fred has agreed to leave only yesterday. There's been talks of Scott McTominay leaving. There's been talks of Donny van de Beek going on loan as well. So a big overhaul in midfield. It's going to be interesting to see how Erik ten Hag sets up his midfield. I think Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes are, pretty much sewn up to start. I don't see why they wouldn't. Is it going to be Mason Mount? Is it going to be Christian Eriksen? I think both of them didn't really, blow anyone away in terms of pre-season. Me personally, I think it's probably going to be Mason Mount. I think Erik ten Hag has committed to him now. He has been basically involved in nearly all of the pre-season games. He was involved in the early pre-season games in Oslo and Edinburgh and things like that. So he's got a lot of game time under his belt throughout pre-season. I think he's going to be a good signing for us. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Erik ten Hag actually sets up his midfield, because we've seen last season, more of a defensive midfield than an attacking midfield for a lot of the season, where we've had maybe Christian Eriksen doing more of a defensive role than he's normally used to. Are we going to see more of a single pivot this season with Casemiro holding the fort and potentially, Fernandes and Mason Mount in, playing maybe more forward, especially with the likes of Onana now in the goal. It's going to push our whole team further up the field. So that's going to be really interesting to see. We are going to need Casemiro to have a very good season again, because he had such a great season last year. He set the standard so high for himself. Now, he has had them standards throughout his whole career. We know that. But midfield is going to be a very important area for us this season. I think Bruno Fernandes has a big season ahead of him as well. Officially now going to be Manchester United's captain. He basically was United's captain last season anyway, wasn't he? But I think now that he's officially got the armband, he's going to want to maybe add some more goals to his game. I mean, his goal contributions last year were brilliant. His numbers were unbelievable. And the majority of that was in relation to maybe assists that he was getting. We are going to want him to continue them assists. But if he could chip in with some more goals, I mean, it's going to be another brilliant season for him. So let's see what happens. Now, let's talk about the opposition and Wolves. I mean, look, I've tipped Wolves to get relegated this season. And I don't want to jinx myself here or anything, but I mean, if Manchester United can play at the levels that we can expect them to play at, then I think we should blow Wolves out of the water. We really should. They've lost a number of key players this season, none more so than Ruben Neves in the middle of midfield. Absolutely huge loss for Wolves. And to see him going to Saudi Arabia is, if he was moving to a United or an Arsenal or a Barcelona or someone like that, you would say, okay, fair enough. But to lose him to Saudi Arabia must be devastating for Wolves fans. We've also seen them lose their manager in the last few days. And look, I think he's gone. I think rightly so. I think he's well within his rights to leave, because I think he sees the writing on the wall there. He hasn't been backed with any sort of funds to go into the transfer market this summer. I think Wolves are really going to struggle this year, and I think Manchester United should have more than enough to get the job done on Monday night against them. So difficult job for Wolves at Old Trafford on Monday night, and one that I think United should get the job done against. Okay, let's get into the predicted 11 here. And obviously Manchester United, I think are going to go strong in the opening game. Obviously, we've seen last year that Manchester United, we didn't get off to a great start, at the start of the season last year. Obviously with I suppose losses to Brentford and Brighton last year. And I think Ten Hag is going to want to put that straight. And I think that's going to start first and foremost with a good solid defence. And my backline for the upcoming game, my predicted back five, I would say. Of course, Onana is going to start in the goal. I'm going to go with Wan-Bissaka at right back, Luke Shaw at left back, and then of course Varane and Martinez in central defence. I think it gives us a stable base, you would have to say. I think I think we did have a very good season last year in terms of defensive record. We were one of the best defences. Obviously, David De Gea won the Golden Glove in terms of clean sheets. And clean sheets are not just in relation to a goalkeeper. They're in relation to your entire team not conceding goals. Obviously, the goalkeeper gets the accolades for it. I think Ten Hag is going to, want to put out the strongest defence that he possibly can. And in my opinion, this is it, Now, when we're talking about midfield, obviously there's different, options here. I think the main one is going to be Mason Mount or Christian Eriksen. I'm going to go with a midfield tree of Casemiro, obviously holding, and then I'm going to go with Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes just ahead of him. I think this is our strongest midfield. Look, I do love Eriksen. I think he's a fantastic footballer. Does he have the legs and the physicality and the energy levels to get up and down the field? I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with him in pre-season either. I think he is more than likely going to be a backup this year to maybe Mason Mount. So that's my midfield. Again, I think it's the strongest one, but let me know yours in the comment section below. In terms of a front three then, I'm going with a front three of Anthony on the right-hand side, Garnacho on the left-hand side, and Marcus Rashford through the middle. Again, at the moment, I think this is the strongest forward line we could go with. I think Garnacho is going to get a lot more game time this season. I think Anthony is probably our first choice right-sided player at the moment. Now, I do hope he can have some competition from maybe a Pellistri or a Jadon Sancho or a, even an Ahmad, players like that. I think Jadon Sancho potentially could come into this forward line. I wouldn't be surprised if he is there, because he had quite a good pre-season as well. So I wouldn't be disappointed if Jadon Sancho comes into that, instead of maybe Anthony, I would say. I would like Rashford and Garnacho to start. I think Rashford is a shoo-in, but I would like Garnacho to start. We have seen Ten Hag last year play him quite sparingly and use him as a substitute more so as a starter. Will that change this season? That remains to be seen, but that's the forward line I'm going to go with. Let me know your predicted 11 in the comment section below as well, guys. Okay, and finally, if we're going with a score prediction, like I said, I think Manchester United are going to have too much for Wolves. I think Wolves are in big trouble this season. I've tipped them for relegation. Manchester United have had a decent pre-season. We need to get the season off to a good start on Monday night. We really do. We don't want to have any, hiccups like we did last season. So for that reason, I think Manchester United are going to be bang at it on Monday night. Old Trafford, under the lights. It's going to be red hot atmosphere. I think United are going to absolutely blow Wolves away. I'm going with a 3-0 win to Manchester United. I think it's going to be a comfortable win and a good start to the season for United. Let me know your score prediction in the comment section below as well. Let me know your predicted 11 also. Of course, we're going to be watching the match live on Monday night as well, doing a watch along for it, so make sure you're tuning in for that. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. I do appreciate it. Anybody who wants to become an official member of the YouTube channel as well, guys, the link is in the description, and all channel members this season are going to have the opportunity to come on to the match reaction videos that we'll be doing directly after each Manchester United game this season. So if you want to come on live, there's different benefits that you can get as well, but that's the main benefit that we're doing this season. So if you want a chance to come live onto the match reaction videos with us, check out the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll chat to you soon.